Hi, I'm Carl Franklin. In episode 28, I started a MAUI Blazor.NET Rocks podcast client app. The app downloads metadata for current shows from a public API. The user can select an episode, or a show as I call them, and the MP3 file is downloaded locally and played. In episode 30, I added info for the guests with their pictures and bios to the details page, and also the show links. I also added the ability to manage playlists with basic CRUD actions. Our app now saves all the data it downloads when online, so it can be used when the app is offline. In episode 31, I implemented the playlist functionality, adding and removing shows, moving shows up and down in the list, and actually playing the entire playlist. In this episode, I'll add the ability to pre-download the playlist shows while online, so they can be listened to when offline. MAUI Blazor Podcast Client Part 4 is coming right up on the .NET Show. Alright, so I started by cloning the repo, MAUI DNR3, at my GitHub account. You can rebuild it from scratch if you want to, but it's much easier to do it this way. Alright, so the main idea here is that we need to allow the user to pre-download all of the show MP3 files in the playlist that's selected so that they can go offline and listen to that entire playlist without worrying, oh, I didn't already listen to this one or that one. Now, as I was building this code out, one thing became clear. My models don't support what I need to do. Check it out. Over here I have show and show details. So show has all the interesting stuff that I need for a particular show. The title, the show number, the description, date recorded, yada yada. What it doesn't have is any of the file details. That's in show details. So here we have guests and links and sponsors and tags and files. And so if I want to say check to see if a file has been downloaded and is in the cache, I need to get all the details in order just to get the file URL. Look at file, right? I just want that, and I want to hang it off of show. So that's what I did. I'm just going to modify this here, and the only thing that we're doing is really adding this MP3 URL. And so just to get this, I had to change the SQL query in my API controller that returns the list of shows to also include that MP3 URL. But I did that. So suffice it to say, when you get a show, you don't have to go and get the details and get the file and the URL from the file. Now the show will have an MP3 URL right in there. Of course, when you go to details and you want to see, the guests and all that stuff, you still have to get the details. But this little shortcut makes it so much easier for me to do what I need to do here. All right, now I've added a few global usings at the top of MAUI program. So you'll notice that wherever I have these using statements in other places in the code, those have been removed. I just like global usings. That's the only thing that's changed here. Now I've also fixed a bug in playlist Razor CS. So let's go to pages, playlist, Razor CS. And I basically added this code right here to a few places: playlist selected, playlist clicked, and delete button clicked. And basically, anytime that I select a playlist or click on a playlist to select it or delete a playlist, if I have this show playlist only set to true, which is really only used on the index page, then I'm going to toggle that back to false. And that makes sure that our main page or the index page shows the right buttons and button text when we navigate back to it. Next, I'm going to modify details Razor CS. And basically, anytime I have this show.showdetails.file URL, I'm replacing it with this show.mp3 URL. And I'm just going to do that everywhere here. Now let's get to the meat of it. Index Razor CS. Let me replace this. Now there's a lot of new stuff here. I've added this status message which is just a message I'm going to show in the main UI when we're downloading our playlist show files, like downloading 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3, so you can show something there. And I also have this bool downloading, and I'm going to disable the buttons in the index when I'm downloading so that you don't inadvertently change something while the download is in progress. Next, I have this isDownloaded method where I pass a show and I return true if the file is in the cache. So it's the same code that I'm doing in details when I go to play. I get the cache directory, I create the file name from the URL, and then the local version of that with the cache directory in it, and then I basically just return exists local file. Next, I have this playlist episodes not downloaded property, read-only property. And so this is going to return the number of episodes in the playlist that have not yet been downloaded. And I'm basically just going through in a loop and updating a counter. Next, I've got my code to download the playlist. So this downloads all of the MP3 files in the playlist that are not downloaded. And again, this is sort of the same code that we had before. We're getting the cache directory. I've got a counter, which I'm going to use to update the status message. I get the episodes not downloaded. Then I go through the shows. And if the show is not downloaded, not in the cache, we increment the counter, set the status message to downloading this of that, getting the fully qualified path to local file. And then with a new HTTP client, I download it all and copy the data to the local file. All right, now let's modify the markup. So you see how I'm disabling the reset button by calling this method? Well, I'm going to do the same thing for all of the other buttons. They're going to be disabled if we're downloading. And that goes for every button in here, all the way down into the shows and all the way back down to the bottom to load more shows. All right, this one right here is new. If the playlist episodes not downloaded is greater than 0, right? And this is under the condition that we are showing the playlist only, then I have a button to download playlist. And the text is download number of episodes not downloaded of however many shows there are in the playlist. Then, of course, I have the status message. Right? While we're downloading, if that status message is not an empty string, we're going to show it in italics. And folks, that is it. Pretty cool. Let me just run it. In a subsequent show, we'll deal with that whole resizing stuff, and we'll save the current position and size so that it doesn't flash like that. We're going to try it anyway. All right, now I'm going to go to playlists, and I've already got one here, Azure. But I'm going to delete it. I'll add a new playlist, and let's call it JavaScript. Now I'll go back here and filter JavaScript. And yeah, that's a few. I'm going to click Add All to add these 16 anyway. And now if I go to Show Playlist, you can see this button right here. Download 16 of 16. That means of the 16 episodes in this playlist, I have not downloaded any of them. So I will speed up the time here, but this is what happens. Okay. Now if I play the playlist, you're not going to see any downloading messages. So let's see what happens here. So folks, that is the end of my demo. We're going to keep going with this and finally get it into the App Store. Coming up here, probably the beginning of next year, we'll put it in the App Store. Hey, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Please visit blazortrain.com and the .NETshow.com for more great content.